I'm Eleni, and I'm here to talk about, why we need a new leadership mindset. I've said this in different videos in different words, but I thought that it would be really interesting to look at efficiency and creativity. So here we are, we're born as children, pure, whole, and complete. We're creative, we're open, we're generous, we're trusting, we take risks, we don't fear much. Then we enter into this socialization. And this is, let's say, school or socialization. This is the process where adults influence children and focus us on results. Okay, so we are focused on results by reward and punishment, like this is accepted, this isn't. What is criticized, judged, and blamed. So we go toward earning, accolades or approvals versus criticism, judgment, and blame. We're not allowed to use our emotions, or we're taught to stay logical. We learn about hierarchy, and we're not really encouraged to play. We're encouraged to study, to focus on learning things that will help us achieve things like good grades or science, creativity outcomes and things like that. So the focus is on results, and what happens is we learn to stop caring about or considering what we feel and what we care about. So there's becomes a separation. Here everything is like, I'm enough, I'm okay, I'm open, and then we get more and more focused and saying, I'm only okay if I get good grades, if the adults or in my life approve, if I'm not getting punished, if. So a lot of constraints come in here, and we start to think of ourselves in a very different way. So we separate from this wholeness and say, okay, actually we're not whole anymore. We're only good if we get certain things or have certain things, and we're not if we don't. And so that affects how we see ourselves and how we feel about ourselves. So we go toward achievements regardless of how it makes us feel, regardless of whether we agree with it or not. We start to focus on how to access love and acceptance and respect by people who use reward and punishment and criticism and judgment and blame to focus our attention, right? So then we come as adults out of this system. We're guarded, we're skeptical, we're fearful of risk, we're fearful of mistakes, we're fearful of getting things wrong. We often are critical and judgmental, and we blame others. And we focus most of our attention on, how do I prove my worth? So here it's, I'm fabulous, I am connected with my inherent value. By the time we're socialized, it's like, I have to prove I have inherent value. Now, fascinating this is, so it's like values efficiency, values outcomes, values assets. And that's the industrialization of our thinking. And even though most countries in the world are not industrialized, they are influenced by the industrialized countries because of our education system. So the public education system is the place where we get all this, and it's inculcated into our systems day in, day night. And over time and through repetition, things move from here, a conscious level, to the subconscious level. I pretend that's in a belly. Nobody knows really where the consciousness is, but let's say it becomes part of us. So the conscious mind is something that we are deliberate about. It's a creative aspect of our mind. And then the subconscious mind is where we have habits, where our bodies remember how to blink and do a lot of things to adapt to our environments. And so this becomes subconscious. And so that's why we then start to behave in frequently an automatic pilot. It doesn't mean we're not smart. It doesn't mean we're not capable. It means that most of our thinking comes from the subconscious level. And if that's true, then it's really a function of what we're taught and what we were focused to learn. And if you're interested to read more about that, you can learn about fast and slow thinking by Kahneman. He wrote a huge book, and he got a Nobel Prize for his work in the 70s, looking at, the subconscious mind is the fast thinking, meaning something that happens like that. The conscious mind is slow compared to that, meaning the deliberate thinking. And so he made that distinction, which is maybe the first time there was a significant attention scientifically to this matter. Now, so we start to value efficiency, and efficiency is something really good to measure if things don't change. But what if things change? I mean, we're in an environment now where most of our systems, meaning our schools, they don't work anymore. Our families are changing. People are leaving their religions and becoming spiritual. Like a lot of things are changing compared to what we were taught as children or our parents were taught. And so we're in an environment where we can't depend on what we were taught here. We have to start depending on something different. And so in the next video, we'll talk about what is that? What do we need to depend on now? Hi again, back with this second part of the video about why we need a new leadership mindset. Now we talked about the efficiency in the last video. So now when there's a lot of change, we need creativity. So efficiency doesn't work when there's a lot of change. It works in a stable environment, and it works when things are predictable. And that's really the goal of the industrial mindset, is to create predictability by having standards, by having metrics that measure efficiency and measure things that go standardization. Yet that not only it creates it, but it assumes there's going to be stability. And in the last couple, 200-300 years, we could say we've had stability in the sense that there was growth in the industrial model. In other words, it was progressing and moving into all parts of our lives, creating standards, creating efficiency, etc. So you can imagine roads in Germany and roads in maybe another country where they don't have the same order. You can see there's a lot of differences when there's like rules, go left, go right, like everybody's organized. There's an efficiency to it. If you go to a country where there are no roads and no lights and nobody listens to the laws and they're like this kind of thing, things happen. People are able to live with that, but theoretically they're less efficient. So the industrial model thrived on that. Now, what's happening now? People are resisting now, kind of moving against efficiency, because if and when we each maximize our efficiency, we squeeze out humanity. So this is antithetical to humanity, because what is human? Emotional, dreaming, visionary, collaborative. It's kind of big and it's creative. What is incredible about humans is creativity and the amount and the type of ingenious ways we have to work together, to think about our thinking, meta feeling. This is incredible about the human experience. It's not efficient because it's effective maybe, but it's not like you know exactly what somebody's going to feel and you know exactly how to react. It's not like that because of, firstly, the fact that we have rejected emotions for numerous hundreds of years, and so we haven't practiced our emotional muscles, so to speak. And in the late 80s, a few people like Daniel Goleman came up with emotional intelligence and realizing that leaders who were the most effective, especially in change, were the ones who are more creative, more able to deal with people on a human level instead of on an efficiency level. And so things are changing. We want more purpose and meaning, and we're realizing we don't get it in this. We might maximize profits in this model, and that's meaningful to a lot of people, but it's not meaningful enough to most of us anymore to say, I'm going to work my whole life in a very standardized way, whether it's a product or service, right? Because even the services companies, people say, you do this, then you do this, it's created an assembly line. And people want more purpose and meaning. And what's fascinating is we got reconnected to our inherent value. Whole, pure, and complete. So this one says, I am enough. This one says, I'm not enough. I have to prove I'm enough. And we're constantly proving. Now, if we move into creativity, we stop proving. We're like, okay, creativity is a space where we don't know the outcome. It's not efficient. We don't know exactly how long it will take. We don't know what will come out of it, etc. And so we're learning as we are going, and the creativity, like nature's way of handling things, is to give us creativity through play. Okay, so the efficiency also, what it does for us on a needs level, and if you want, you could go look at our other videos about the basic needs. What do we really need? What motivates us? One of the needs is certainty. And efficiency, the model of standardization and efficiency, loves that. and gives that to us. That's why we love efficiency. Excuse me. Because it gives us the impression we're safe, we know what to do, right? If somebody gives us a standard approach to dealing with a client, let's say we're consultants, and we have the standard approach we use with every client, and then we tailor it, we feel like, okay, I'm okay. I know the standard that somebody has given me and other people I've worked on for years to hone. I can feel more safe. I don't necessarily depend on myself very much. I don't depend on my creativity, but I feel safe. And this is what people love, right? We love that. Now, that works when it works. When it doesn't work, when there's a lot of change, like now, we don't have certainty. We have uncertainty. And in response to uncertainty, we can use our creativity. So when there's a lot of change, efficiency doesn't work, creativity does. So we think of new ways to do things. We ideate, we brainstorm, we get into a specific mindset of where we're calm and neutral and open, right? We go back to the muscles, so to speak, that we have and we had and we have, that were socialized out of us, but we still have them and we can always practice them. So it's not a big leap, but we do have to focus on certain behaviors and mindsets that allow us to be creative. So being creative requires a little bit of risk because you might come up with something that doesn't make sense. It's the whole basis of science, right? It's experiment, see what happens. You don't know what will come out of it, and you learn in the process. And so a completely different mindset is required for creativity than for efficiency. And so, but where do we learn it? We're not learning it here. Schools are not adapting fast enough, at least most of them aren't. They may have after-school programs, and that's wonderful. Maybe here and there teachers are able to really reinstate creativity in the learning process, but we're talking about the whole system is really still focused here, but we need this. And so that's why a new mindset is needed, because there's a lot of change. That's really the basis of it. There's a lot of change and we need to do something else, which we're measured for efficiency. How are we going to be creative? So we start to then question the metrics we have. We question, how we do things. We question our strategies, our processes, etc. in organizations as an example. And we start to unravel things, and soon enough things are going to be revolving around creativity, which is more humane. It's more around us as people. So it's human-centric. And so this is kind of one of the main reasons we need to use a new leadership mindset, because there's a lot of change and we need creativity. Now, how do we become creative? For a personal takeaway from this video, assess yourself. How much of the time do you like to be efficient? When you're walking across the street, when you're driving and you want to go past the yellow light to save a few minutes, when you're at this store, at work, daily life, how much of the time do you measure yourself on how efficient you are? And if you don't really have measures, because most of us may not, you can just notice yourself. You're like, oh, I might have done that because I like efficiency, because it's in the subconscious mind. Then question yourself and say, how much of the time do I play? How much of the time am I really creative? No worries about what outcomes are, how it comes out. Like I'm total in creative mode. And just notice that in yourself and notice how you can integrate more and more creativity in your life.